Zenless Zone Zero is the coolest game ever made. Cause here's the thing. It's like Devil May Cry, but on your phone. You know, the one that's small enough to fit in your pocket, but then falls out of your pocket when you sit down while you're at work kind of phone. The point is that Zenless Zone Zero is at least more Devil May Cry than the official Devil May Cry mobile game, which is, well,
You know what I'm going to say.
never forget what they took from us. Of course, you, as the intelligent, handsome, and extremely chill person that you are, with very good, if not great, media literacy, can recognize when someone is being hyperbolic. But am I? After all, there's one aspect, one feature of Zenless Zone Zero that sets it above the rest, and that's the fact that Hoshimi Miyabi is the coolest character in video games. If you haven't played Zenless Zone Zero, you're probably wondering what there is to say about this character that needs 26 minutes to discuss. In fact, I don't even start talking about story spoilers until 19 minutes in. Well, all I need to show you is this. What is this, you ask? Foolishly, this is the cutscene where you're introduced to Hoshimi Miyabi, and you can tell that the animators were not messing around. The speed, the power, the motivation, it's all here, from her smooth run cycle to the whirlwind of movements and the crisp jolt when she lands on the surface to give a sense of continuity to her momentum. And that she's so strong that she is able to control it and maintain her balance. And all of this carnage is punctuated by the lightning fast impact frames that give her actions so much impact. And spoiler alert, this is all perfectly reflected in her gameplay. But before we can talk about that, we need to address the motivated elephant in the room. Yeah, she's just like Vergil, with some key differences, namely her two massive fox ears. You and I both know how Hoyo locks in with their character design, especially when they're dealing with what are basically demigods in their world's lore. That's why the character designers, in their infinite wisdom, asked the fundamental question, what if Vergil from Devil May Cry, but anime girl? And when they realized that they already did that at least 7 times already, they then asked the question, what if Vergil, but anime girl, but with massive ears? Not the fake ones, like on the purple Vergil from Genshin Impact. No, the shorter one. But real, fluffy, anatomically questionable ears. I simply cannot express the bigness of these ears. They add another 6 inches to her height. Without them, she'd just be like 5 feet tall. And that probably still includes the heels. Now, my short kings and queens and regents, I don't mean to make fun of y'all, but when one of the strongest warriors in the universe is so self-conscious about her height that she makes it her gamer tag, I find that to be somewhat humorous. Especially when Hoshimi Miyabi is the coldest character in video games. But wait! You shout, because you're extremely observant. You point out that she is clearly on fire during this cutscene. So wouldn't that actually make her the hottest character in video games? No. Because, first of all, that title goes to Lycon's vampire boyfriend. And second of all, this is not a 3, 2, 1 fire situation. This is an ice fire situation, where her aura is so cold that she has no choice but to spontaneously combust so that the entropy of the universe continues to increase. In fact, her sword is so dangerous that she needs to keep it locked behind a fingerprint scanner, which is really similar to how Jetstream Sam can pull the trigger on his scabbard before he pops off, just like how Miyabi uses it to unleash her impact frame limiters. If you haven't figured it out by now, I'm a big enjoyer of the stoic, tunnel vision swordsman archetype, where the only enemies they really have are their trauma, which they sometimes take out on their twin siblings, or clones, or something else. Of course, the understaffed, new Eridu military knows this, which is why they love to drop her over their problems like a tactical nuke, like that one time with an ethereal the size of multiple city blocks. And that's where she got her coolest shit arm brace that gives her the excuse to wear her Haori, shout out to Sasaki Buri, in a half-cloak kind of style, which is simply extremely, stupidly cool. Even the button-up office shirt aesthetic of Section 6 doesn't get in the way of her coolness because it doesn't get more real than bringing your work ID into a war zone. Plus, being a Spec Ops soldier in hand means that you get to put hand insignias on everything. And after the update to her design, the hands on her belt became way more prominent. But wait, an update? An update to her design, you say? Of course, this level of fashion and aura doesn't just appear overnight. Before literally this frame, during the 1.3 livestream, Hoshimi Miyabi looked like this. As you can see, her eyes were a little far apart, so she went from angry Sid Ice Age to handsome Squidward, and we never looked back. Except I did. The updated model is an upgrade across the board, but I'm just sorry that new players will never know her RBF, her resting badass face. While the devs worked to update her model, the fan art and fan reception was the fire that kept the hype going, and the motivation that kept the ears rising. And that's because the fandom was able to recognize that Hoshimi Miyabi is the silliest character in video games. The other characters in the game mention that she has an odd manner of speech, but it goes way beyond goofy monologues because she's just an absolute massive dork. We know this because she imagines that she's having epic anime battles when she's actually just playing with literal house cats. Or what about that time she decided that the floor was lava and that she must avoid stepping off of the crosswalk marks or perish? Then there's her mugshot profile photo. And who could forget when she sent a crate containing Ching-Yi's dismembered corpse to her police officer bestie with zero context? Or I could mention that time when she randomly called Juyun to reminisce about their time at the academy, which makes me want to call her the neediest character in video games, but no, I'd rather talk about that time when Hoshimi Miyabi polished her balls. You thought I was showing something else on the screen, weren't you? Well, you need to put down the drawing tablet and look up, because it's time to show you why Hoshimi Miyabi is the strongest character in video games. Obviously, her Void Hunter title meant that she was going to be built different from the start. Every day, I would just go looking at leaks and speculation about her kit, but looking at all the skill descriptions and spreadsheets was pointless when I realized that I'm illiterate and that numbers scare me. But then came November 8th, 2024, which was the day we saw her finalized combat animations for the first time. It was on that day when I realized that the devs had locked in order to turn Vergil's Judgment Cut into the Judgment Nut. Look at the way that the first few basic attacks escalate from generic slashes to her signature blue before exploding into her ice fire aura that freezes the very ground that she steps on. I especially like the way that the fourth basic attack breaks up this circular Beyblade-like pattern with diagonal slashes, but keeps her forward momentum. And then there's the charge basic, which I'm just gonna call the Judgment Cut End, mostly because that's just what it looks like. This thing has the range of new Eridu and the visual effects work to justify it. So it also looks just way cooler than any other attack in the game, which includes her ult, impact frames and all, which might make some go, gee Miyabi, why does Hoyoverse let you have two ults? That said, when you actually play the video game, you'll find out that her gameplay is a little simple. She just has the 5-step basic attack string where your skill expression is limited to the timing of her alternative attacks and how well you can manage the stacks of motivation she has available. So there's no directional inputs like with Lighter's freestyle kickboxing or Nicole's silly spin, not even stance changes like Yanagi. But single character simplicity isn't a limiting factor in this game, especially when they keep coming up with new mechanics for every character they introduce. At the time that I'm recording this, the devs are about to implement a new system where off-field characters have attacks that can be triggered by on-field ones, like it's Tokyo Mirage Sessions or something. If they keep up this feature creep, I think we'll quickly arrive at a significant level of complexity with a limited amount of inputs. I have some ideas for how this would be achieved, but that's a video for another day. Now this is the point in the video where you could go into the comments, find a comment complaining about how Zenless Zone Zero is way too simple to be like Devil May Cry, and then reply to that comment saying you have the attention span of a goldfish. He addressed that later in the video. But I would never condone such an action because that would be mean. Especially when, because of my insane streamer luck, I was able to attain 4 copies of Hoshimi Miyabi and one of her Wenjin. After months of planning, of course. And let me tell ya, she is perfect. If you have at least 3 copies of the character, and I do think that it's pretty disappointing that they locked a game mechanic behind a additional gacha paywall, especially because she plays significantly different between having copies and having no copies, which is noticeable to me when I turn on trial mode and play as her M0, like a peasant. In those moments, I feel like I'm missing a piece of my motivation, both figuratively and literally, because without her mindscape, you can't get that extra stack of motivation to use for her attacks. But wait, don't let me leave you thinking that she's only cool under this and this condition. No. In every possible variation, as long as you have 1 copy of this Queen of Me, you'll also have the demon lurking inside that cursed blade. Or something. I don't know. She apparently hits pretty hard out of the box, but I wouldn't know because I don't use damage numbers. This is apparently surprising to people, but I would like to see my gameplay and characters, I say, while hyping up the character with a VFX chain that still makes it impossible to see the enemies, but still, like I said, numbers scare me. Plus, the devil is in the details, and the developers will be the first to tell you that Hoshimi Miyabi has one of the highest motion module counts in the industry. I don't really know what that means, but it sounds impressive. And it looks impressive when you stop pressing the buttons and watch all of the variations that it takes for her to return to a neutral state. In fact, I kind of lied earlier when I said that she has no directional inputs, because if you dodge in a direction where she isn't facing, she'll do this quick twirling jump, which is just very cute and badass. Just like her spiritual father, Vergil, Hoshimi Miyabi has a teleporting dash that has after images. I especially like how the after images spread out around her as if the game is having trouble predicting her movement, until I realized that sometimes I struggle to predict where she's going. Generally though, her movement is incredibly precise, in a way that really maintains a sense of momentum, which is why she's the ultimate example of why I love Zenless Zone Zero as a fast action game. Because trading blows at the pace of a Jane Doe boss fight is incredibly rewarding and is just an all-around fun time. Another thing that's fun is the fact that her hair is always on fire, and I appreciate that this is the case regardless of if you get her Wenjin or not, which makes sense when the devs used 200 VFX files to achieve the effect, so you know they weren't gonna make all that work even more exclusive. I do think I prefer Talus's older hand-sculpted flames over the final gaseous effect, as technically impressive as it might be. Of course, one of my favorite details about her gameplay is how she has a conditional parry, just like Yanagi, but with an even simpler condition, which is just timing her 5th basic attack to start when you're about to get hit by something. But if you are fortunate enough to have mindscapes like me, just remember that if you parry something and then immediately go for a dodge counter, you won't get a stack of motivation because it's only awarded near the end of the animation, apparently. I learned this the hard way after a lot of beatings in the tower. Sometimes I take Hoshimi Miyabi on solo outings to simply aura farm. To do this, I put those 25 stopping modules to the test by pausing my inputs during combat to give Hoshimi Miyabi time to look completely relaxed and in control of the situation before going in to deliver even more mayhem. This is why I was hoping we'd get taunt animations after they implemented one for Lighter in the beat 'em up event, but oh well. Now all of this stuff actually makes it hard to record B-roll for this video because she either clears floors instantly or because I'm so shit at video games. I need to reset the level because somehow she took damage. And let me tell ya, when Hoshimi Miyabi takes damage, I take emotional damage in real life. And that's because she has so many iframes that sometimes it feels like I'm cheating at the game. At least until I'm reminded of the small gap in the iframes where the enemy can hit her after her invincible 4th basic attack and her conditional parry in the 5th basic attack. That or I just get hit by random bullshit because someone failed to call either Child Protective Services or Isaac Asimov in his grave to stop Grace Howard from making another sentient construction robot ever again. In order to mitigate the amount of random bullshit you experience in this game, you can give Hoshimi Miyabi teammates. You could use all of Section 6 at the same time, but because of my small brain energy, I do not have the bandwidth to maintain both the parry rhythm of Hoshimi Miyabi and Yanagi at the same time. And Harmasa is there too, I guess. Plus, if Yanagi is on the orange stance instead of her blue stance, she'll do this really jank back step before using the charged special attack immediately after the character switch, which just looks gross and forces me to remember Genshin Impact's character switch system, which must be avoided at all costs. So one team I like to run is Miyabi Ellen Sokaku, because I'm completely immune to power creep, and also I like when I do a Sharknado in the middle of Foxgirl Vergil's slicing of the very concepts of time and space. It just looks really cool, and it's just really fun to execute. And you know, I just can't help that sometimes my favorite team to run with her is Lighter and Lucy, because they both have ways of tracking the enemy to help Hoshimi Miyabi reposition and continue her combo, whether that's Lighter's quick assist or Lucy's tracking shot. Though I do have to watch out that I don't cancel Lighter's quick assist with his alt animation, because for some reason they decided to put his quick assist spawn point far beyond the conceivable range of his ult. But then again, that's probably just a skill issue. At the end of the day, I should have never doubted the motivation of the fighting game nerds, Y and Z and all the other letters they have employed in Hoyo HQ. After all, the character switch parry might just be the coolest game mechanic in video games. I will say that I'm a bit mixed on Hoshimi Miyabi's implementation in Lost Void, with a lot of her upgrades having to do with making her more invincible with few new animations beyond her new dash attack. Then again, maybe they gave Yanagi Vergil's normal judgment cuts, because if they gave Hoshimi Miyabi more of Vergil's moveset, they would be forced to announce the end of service, because there would be nothing left to improve upon. Plus, when the Lost Void upgrades all fall into place, like the ult giving maximum motivation stacks, and the automatic evade being triggered by her parry, I've got to admit, it does feel like I have unlimited power right at my fingertips, which is probably what they were going for. Well, I think it's finally time to talk about why Hoshimi Miyabi is the scariest character in video games. And this is where we get into story spoilers. Then again, if you understood even a fraction of my gameplay explanations, you're probably caught up with the story. But just in case I've miraculously convinced someone completely new to Zenless Zone Zero to check out more of the game, you can go do that and come back to this video later. Or not. I don't really give a shit. Just have fun with the game. Alright proxies, let's be so serious right now. Hoshimi Miyabi is terrifying. Sure, she was clearly very strong in that first cutscene, but she was also really chill and didn't seem to be all that worried about why a random civilian had such a skilled bangbu and possibly forbidden tech. At least, she seemed chill at the time until she showed up at the memorial site and said,
"Indeed, I shall not seek peace until all those responsible for the fall of the old capital are apprehended. I'll catch them all. None will escape me."
And first of all, that statement does sound so intense that it loops around to being hilarious. And secondly, according to the available information, our teacher, parent / mentor was totally the one who killed her mom. Like, wow, she's probably gonna go full fire demon mode on our asses someday. Or at least, that's what I was looking forward to in terms of a possible boss fight with her, a la Vergil from Devil May Cry. But no, we got another Metal Gear boss with Miyabi's cyber ghost just popping in and out of existence instead. But hey, at least we got the iconic line,
"I had the urge to kill you about 5 minutes ago."
along with Hoshimi Miyabi just generally looking like the badass that she is the whole dang time. And remember how I mentioned that the military drops her onto their problems like a nuke? Yeah, when Sai Nijima Wesker over here drops her over a gathering of civilians, that was probably the craziest shit they could have pulled. I do find it really funny that in order to make this happen, the bad guys had to canonically rely on Hoshimi Miyabi's tendency to cut bullets out of the air. That, and they put her under arrest, and her dad's response is to laugh like a hyena. Cause he knows that she is totally just stupidly strong and could never be in danger herself. Right, she was arrested because she tossed that guy into the void, which is fantastic. But she's sent to a different kind of void later, and that was a very cool yet morbid sequence. And then that walk of shame, like in Metal Gear, was tense. But for some reason, this game likes to shy away from having playable characters experience irreversible consequences at the last second, but it is what it is. Throughout this trial, we really got a sense of who this character is. She's aware of the fact that she's not the brightest or the wisest, and that she's really only studied the blade. But her faith in humanity allows her to take the next step forward, and then the one after that, and then the one after that. Cause Section 6 is the ultimate testament to her optimism and trust in others, and it's cool to see how much trust she places in her teammates and how quick she is to vocally affirm it. With Hoshimi Miyabi, when she says she believes in you, she really means it. Which is why Yanagi and Haramasa were able to excel and commit to their respective arcs and become stronger as a result. And I think that's the main reason why I respect her so dang much, to the point of only saying her full name this entire video. Oh, and there's the fact that you can tell that her epic sword slash cutscene is totally timed to bury the light. This is why Hoshimi Miyabi is the coolest character in video games.
Seriously? Talk about showing off.
I had more to say, but the video has gone on for way too long, so I think I'll stop. For now. Because now that you understand why Hoshimi Miyabi is the coolest character in video games, you should go watch this video by Mez, which is objectively the coolest video on YouTube, and maybe slightly totally inspired me to make this video that you just watched. And, you know, if you want to subscribe to the scientifically proven second coolest YouTuber on YouTube, you should click the subscribe and like buttons down below. I've heard that this wise viper is working on an absurdly ambitious video that might have to do with Devil May Cry and Zenless Zone Zero and some other stuff, so be sure to watch for that. Or what about that time she decided that the floor was lava and that she must avoid stepping off of the crosswalk marks, that she must avoid stepping on the street, and that she must avoid stepping off of the what? The what the hell?